So what exactly is gender-based analysis, and what will that new approach to government spending mean for Canadian women? Well, joining me now is Terry Duguid. He's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for the Status of Women. Rachel Harder, Conservative critic for the Status of Women. And Rachel Blaney, the NDP's critic for seniors. Good to see you all.
Great to be here.
Terry, I got to start with you. The focus on gender analysis to everything, we know that. So what are the types of things that we should expect? What does it really mean as you put this budget forward?
Well, I think we know that when women succeed, we all succeed, the economy succeeds. So I think that that theme you'll see strongly, as David mentioned, in the budget tomorrow. And gender-based analysis is a tool we use to ensure that our programs, our policies, our decisions are as inclusive as possible, and I think you're going to see that in the budget tomorrow.
Now, Rachel Harder, you heard what David had to say. There is a focus. Jean-Yves Duclos was on the House this weekend talking about the economic imperatives, really, of getting more women into the workforce, closing that gap between men and women, making sure they have same access to funding for small and medium enterprises. What do you think of that?
Well, you know what? It's one thing to be aspirational, to aspire. It's a whole other thing to be able to deliver, to have results that are put on the table, that are measurable, that make a real life difference in the lives of Canadian women across this country. And so I'll certainly be looking at this budget through that lens, really asking the question, are there tangible results being delivered in this budget? I'm hopeful that there will be. I am very hopeful that there will be. But I'll say this. Earlier this year, this government put forward some tax changes with regards to small businesses. And these had an incredibly detrimental impact on female entrepreneurs. And when I asked
the
them,
income sprinkling and the passive investment, these things. Okay, yep.
And so when I asked the minister, was GBA plus, gender-based analysis, applied to this decision, I actually found out that it wasn't. So I'm a little bit hesitant to put weight in what was said with regards to this budget, having gone through that same process with regards to a gender-based analysis. So the results are yet to be seen.
Right. Okay. I saw you smiling when David talked about pharmacare. It seems to me that maybe the NDP's talked about that in the past.
Absolutely, we've talked about it. And, you know, my disappointment is definitely going to be, here we are consulting again. We've heard so clearly that this is something that's needed. As the person who is the critic for seniors, this is a long-term issue where so many seniors are going without, but it's across the board. So many people are going without their medication. They simply can't afford it. And, you know, people are making really hard choices. So I hope to see something in terms of having a gender-based analysis. You know, what I want to see here is action. And that's something that we're not seeing. We're hearing a lot of discussion. So let's talk about pay equity. A motion that went through from the NDP was supported by the government 2016. 2018 is when they said they're going to implement it. So let's see some real reality here. A lot of people don't even know that, you know, women often are making 87 cents to a man's dollar. So let's get legislation on the table. If we're going to talk about having women in the workforce, then let's talk daycare. We just look at what happened to our neighbor in Quebec. They invested in that. We saw increase of revenue for both levels of government and 70,000 women entering the workforce. You know, I knocked on doors and women said to me, I've had to quit my job because by the end of the week, I'm making $20 to $40. Everything else is going to the rising and increasing cost of daycare.
It's a big question.
Let's do it.
Parental benefits are being expanded, and maybe the non-birth parent be able to take some time off at 70% of their income, as we understand it. There has to be childcare, does there not?
Well, we have budgeted $7 billion for child care over the next 10 years, $11 billion for housing, flexible parental compassionate care benefits, the Canada Child Benefit. Yeah. All of these measures help to close that wage gap and to help women.
And to both their points, though, about why study it some more? We already know most of these things, that women are underrepresented in the workforce, that women have more difficulty to run a business and securing loans and the like.
Right. So there were measures in the previous budget. We're going to see, David knows more than I do, and so we're going to see what happens tomorrow. But I'm very optimistic that we will see a continuation of those efforts to advance gender equality. And to Rachel's point, we've seen the results. We have the highest growth rate in the G7, over 500,000 jobs created, the lowest unemployment in 40 years. We have seen results from our measures.
But a problem with productivity, right, Rachel Harder? That's one of the big issues that they face, is Canada's productivity lags behind some of its main competitors.
Well, sure. You know, I think that's certainly an issue. But even more so, I would say, is just how affordable is life? How affordable is life? And if this government really cared about everyday average Canadians, they would be looking to make life more affordable. In an Ipsos Reid poll that was just released right after Christmas, December 27th, it came out in that report that almost 50% of Canadians are within $200 of not being able to pay their mortgage, their car payment, and put food on their table. That's not okay. Canadians deserve a government that's going to make life more affordable.
All right. Are you expecting some tax cuts then in the budget?
I wish we could, but from this government, certainly not.
We've just given a tax cut. Our small business rate will go down to 9%, the lowest in history.
Okay.
Which was a promise made and then given back when the businesses stood up and fought against what's happening. And I hope that we're going to see a lot more than that. We need to also see investment in domestic violence. Right now, we have a lot of organizations that are trying to get women out of those situations. They're underfunded. They're doing the best that they can. So let's see some significant, if we're talking about that, that is the step, right? And the other reality is housing. And so many women are really at risk of losing housing. There is a national housing strategy. 90% of that budget is not even coming until after the next election. The need is right now. So if we're going to talk about these issues through a woman's lens, and how about contraception? If you look at a lot of other countries, they have free birth control for women. And right now, that is something we're not even seeing. I hope to see that on the table, because this is about women having the ability to afford to take care of their bodies and make sure that they're giving birth only when they're prepared to do so.
All three of you have talked about making advancements, but I wonder how you measure this. And I'm interested from all three. How will you measure that your gender-based analysis is actually going to make a difference for the people it's intended to help?
So we're going to be doing a review in March of our gender-based analysis steps so far. The first budget to include gender-based analysis as an entire chapter of the budget, a gender statement, I believe it was called, a whole chapter of the budget, was last year. We're building on those efforts. And so the review, I think, will tell us where to go next, what's been working, what hasn't been working, and where we go from here.
Rachel Harder, what about you? I mean, there is a 10% gap between men in the workforce and women. Is that something you're going to look to see change?
So I think it's interesting because he talks about making a gender statement. We don't need more statements. We don't need more platitudes. We don't need more niceties, more aspirations, more goals. We actually just need action.
Okay, so what are you looking for then that will actually make a difference?
I'm looking for life to be made more affordable. And so let me give you an example. It's one thing to provide parental leave. Take it or leave it, use it or lose it, I should say, parental leave. Okay, so that's one thing. But it's another thing to offer a parental leave that is totally tax-free. That's what's on the table with Andrew Scheer. Totally tax-free. Listen, Canadians should not have to pay a tax on taking time at home with their baby.
Okay.
The Canada Child Benefit
is tax-free.
It's tax-free. It has widely been applauded as adding to our GP, and 9 out of 10 families benefit from the Canada Child Benefit. The previous government, the Conservative government, was sending checks to millionaires who don't need money.
And yet life is less affordable according to Canadians themselves.
Okay, people do say, like, last word to you, Rachel, people are saying they find it harder to make ends meet. Governor of the Bank Canada, Stephen Poloz, has talked about how close people are with their household debt.
Well, Oxfam report came out very clear. 82% of the wealth accumulated last year went to the top 1% earners. No wonder Canadians are saying we can't make ends meet. So, when we look at this, they talk about work, they talk about jobs. These are precarious, low-paying jobs. People are balancing. I had one person say to me, my husband walks in the door, I walk out the door. We see each other 5 minutes a day because we are trying to make this work. So I think if we're going to look at what we want to see, we want to see actual things that are going to make the lives of everyday Canadians better, where they're feeling that they can make ends meet, and when they're actually getting the support. And we need to get women in the workforce. How many women have said to me, and I think this is important, seniors right now, senior women are our most vulnerable group. Of seniors. And so many women are having to stay home with the children, not as a choice, but because they have to. And they're talking to me about, I'm not paying into pension. I'm not paying into my CPP. What does this mean for me upon retirement? We are going backwards instead of forwards. So let's see a change.
I got to leave it. I hope we have you both, all three of you, back after the budget's in. Terry Duguid, Rachel Harder, and Rachel Blaney, thanks so much.